Chapter 12 of The Adventures of Tommy Blake by Brother Ernest Ryan. This Librivox Recording is in the public domain. Tommy the Detective. The hours which Tommy Blake had spent at the bottom of a pit in the mountain, he told the friends who rescued him, had seemed the longest of his life. But they were short compared with the time that intervened between his telephone call and the arrival of the police. He felt all the strain and tension of these exciting and dangerous events, and in addition, he feared his captive might know a secret way of getting out of the garage. Of course, Tommy still had the loaded revolver, but might not Charlie also have one with him? Would a man who was planning some form of robbery, as certainly seemed to be the case, ever be without firearms? And would Tommy be able to hold his own against such a man if he got out and if he did have a gun? Tommy took up his post near one of the windows where he could watch the door of the garage. As he stood there, rigid with excitement, he heard the prolonged sound of someone coughing. The noise seemed quite remote. Was it from the room of the sick man? And where could that room be? For a moment Tommy was tempted to leave his place at the window and try to trace the sound to its source, but prudence won. There was nothing he could do for the man, even if he should find him, whereas it was necessary that he remain on the alert in case the unexpected happened. Now his ear was arrested by another sound, this time the noise of an automobile. Tommy got up and assured himself that all the house doors were locked. He was taking no chances. How could he tell who was in the car which he could now see making its way down the path toward the house? He could only hope that it did not belong to any of Charlie's friends. It was a tense moment. The car came to a standstill near the front entrance. Tommy looked cautiously through the curtains. He saw the door open, and out stepped a policeman, followed by two others. What relief! Now everything would work out well. Tommy hurriedly unlocked the door and called to the first officer. "This way, sir. Come right in. Hurry." "What's going on here, son? Why all the excitement?" "It's a long story, Chief. Will you please come in here? I want to talk it over with you." The Chief and his two assistants entered, while Tommy, hardly pausing for breath, plunged into his recital. "There is a robbery of some kind happening here, and I called you to help me." "What is your name, my boy?" "I'm Thomas Blake, Jr." "Is this your home?" "No, sir. I was brought here. My home is in New York, but I have been living at the Villa, the summer camp of Washington Irving Academy. I got knocked out from snakebite, and I was brought here. Now, sir, the reason I called you is that I have discovered a plot. There is a man living here who is known to me only as Charlie. Last night he had a visitor here, and from the conversation which I overheard, they are planning to cheat someone out of his money. I heard Charlie say there was a sick man here in this house, and that he had made no will, and that if the two would stick together they would get his money. That sick man, Chief, is in one of the rooms on this floor, but his room is locked." "Have you the keys to the doors, Tommy?" "No, sir, but we may be able to get them. At present I have this man Charlie locked up out there in the garage. He has the keys to the house." "You mean to tell me you have someone locked up in the garage?" "Yes, sir." "How did you get him locked in?" "Oh, that was easy. He just drove in as usual. Then I ran and closed the door and locked it." "This is a very serious charge, my boy. Are you sure that there is such a plot as you describe? You know, if we arrest this man and he turns out to be innocent, we'll hear about it." "But if you don't arrest him, sir, innocent people will suffer. My father is a very rich man, Chief, and if you get into any trouble, I am sure he will help you. We can keep the whole thing quiet." "How can you keep it quiet?" "My father can do that. He knows how. He's done it before." "Where's your father, Tommy?" "I don't know where he is at present. He travels a great deal, but we can always contact him through his New York office." "So you have the man trapped in the garage?" "Yes, he's there all right, and he can't get out till we let him out." "Well, the first thing to do is just that. Get him out of the garage. Do you think he carries a gun?" "I don't know, Chief. I found this and one other revolver in the drawer of the library table. They may be his, or they may belong to the sick man. I don't know." "How long has he been in there?" "Since just before I called you, Chief." "Were you ever in the garage, Tommy?" "Yes, sir. I went in there a little while after Charlie went away. That was when I got the idea of trapping him." "Well, we won't have to worry about the gun, Chief," put in one of the policemen who was standing looking out of the window at the garage. "Are there any windows in the building, Tommy? I don't see any from here." "No, sir, not one. That was a good thing for me. I would never have locked that fellow in otherwise. It would have been too dangerous. If he had had a revolver with him, he might have shot me through the window. I wouldn't trust him far. A man who would take advantage of a fellow too sick to help himself can't be trusted with anything." "You're right there, my boy." "Well then, Chief," broke in one of the policemen excitedly, "all we have to do is go out there, unlock the door, open it just wide enough, and tell him to put his arms out through the opening. We can put the cuffs on him and then bring him out. He will not be able to do anyone any harm. We can then question him all we want. If we feel he's innocent, we need go no further. If we feel otherwise, we can make him open the room and let us see the sick man the boy speaks about. All of that is within the law." "You're right," assented the Chief. "Let's go on out. And Tommy," turning to the boy, "you come along with us. I want you to see everything that goes on here. This is really your case, you know." "Yes, sir. I want to see everything. I might have to go to court about it." "We'll find the sick man later." Without further delays, the three officers and Tommy made their way to the garage. The man within had the key, and it was necessary to break the padlock to get the door open. "This is the Chief of Police and 2 officers of the law," shouted the Chief as soon as the lock fell off and before the door was opened. "We don't want any serious trouble with you, sir, but we must insist that you push your hands out through the door when we open it wide enough for that. If you do as I say, we can get this business over within a few minutes." "Okay, Chief," came the surly voice from within, and immediately the hands and arms of the captive protruded through the narrow aperture. "I'm going to put the cuffs on you for the time being." The Chief at once clapped the irons on the extended wrists, then getting a firm grip on them, he gave the men orders to open the door and let the man out. "If the story we have heard is not true, sir, we will let you go as soon as we have checked. Come along with us to the house." Tommy noticed that Charlie did not look at him as they moved along toward the house. "You say his name is Charlie?" one of the policemen asked Tommy as they walked along at some distance behind the Chief. "Yes, that's the only name I know him by." "Have you ever met him before?" "Yes, he was working for my father the last time I met him." "Well, come along in, Tommy. We want you to hear what he'll have to say. I hope you have not called us here to arrest an innocent man." Once they were within the house again, the Chief examined the captive to be sure that he had no weapons concealed upon his person. Then, being satisfied on this point, the Chief faced Charlie squarely. "Is this your house?" "No, it is not." "Do you live here?" "Yes." "The boy tells me that you have a sick man locked up in this house. Is that true?" "Yes, it is." Charlie looked coldly at the Chief. "Is he being detained here against his will?" "Yes." "Are you personally responsible for his being here, or are you an agent for someone else?" "I am personally responsible for his being locked up here, but he came here of his own volition." "Is this his house?" "Yes." "Is the key to his room on that ring in your pocket?" "Yes." The policeman took the key ring out of Charlie's pocket. "What number is on the key to the room?" 29. "Here, Sergeant, take this key. Now, sir, which is room 29? "The second on the left." "Open it, Sergeant." The officer unlocked the door and opened it. Evidently all the curtains in the room were drawn, for the place was very dark. The sergeant located the electric switch and flooded the room with light. There on a bed lay the emaciated form of a man, his hair long and matted, his face covered with a straggly beard. That he was in very critical condition anyone could tell at a glance. He scarcely moved when the light was turned on. "Don't let the boy in there, Chief. Don't let the boy in there." Charlie made an effort to prevent Tommy from going in. "Why not?" "Don't let him in, I tell you." The policeman tightened his grip on his captive so as to be sure he would not get away. "Don't!" There was something strange about the way Charlie shouted at the Chief. "Tommy must be a witness to whatever is said and done here. When this case comes into court, he must know everything about it." Charlie leaned up close to the Chief and whispered something into his ear. To Tommy's watching eyes, the Chief's face seemed to turn pale, and for a long moment he stood perfectly still. "Tommy," he said at last, "would you mind not going into that room for a few moments? I want to see how conditions are in there first. Perhaps it would be better for you not to see this. If everything is satisfactory, I will call you in. Wait here." "Sure, Chief. That's all right with me." Then, turning to the other officer who stood near him, the Chief said, "Hold this man, Jim. I want to take a look at that room." The officer took Charlie's two elbows into a very brawny grip, and the Chief disappeared into the room where the sick man lay. "Why don't you want me to go in there, Charlie?" But Charlie only stared at the floor, leaving Tommy to wonder why it was that he did not want him to see the sick man. End of chapter 12.